I'm based in Washington, D.C., so generally, most weekdays I'm surrounded by 24 other photojournalists trying to make something interesting out of yet another wretched political photo op. But I am able to get out from time to time, when time or money allows, for a personal project. And this one appealed to me largely because it was the polar opposite of working in Washington, D.C. I don't have to ask anyone's permission. There are no other photographers. I didn't have to beg for access. It was cathartic. And I chose the Salton Sea because it seems to me that it was little known. It's a polluted little lake in Southern California that was formed by accident 100 years ago. The Colorado River breached an irrigation canal, and for 4 years, water just flowed downhill into the Salton Basin, which is one of the lowest spots on Earth, and it filled it with fresh water. But because there was no outflow, and the only inflow was agricultural runoff, it quickly became toxic. So the tourists stopped coming, the resorts went bankrupt, and most of the property that surrounded the lake was abandoned, but the structures are still there. So my idea for the piece was to write a poem about the place and then to try and illustrate the words with visuals and without relying on any outside exposition like talking heads and such. In doing research on the place, I found these old real estate promotional films, and I contacted the real estate firm. The real estate firm that had produced them had gone bankrupt. They were bought out by a Texas oil company. I contacted the oil company and I thought, there's no way these guys are gonna give me permission. And I called their flack, and he of course had never even heard of it. But lo and behold, on Thanksgiving Day, he called me and he said, you're not gonna believe this, but I found these tapes. I've gotten our legal team to write something up for you. I was so happy. I couldn't believe he did that for me. It was very generous on his part. The way I wanted to approach a story visually was to shoot day and night and try and make the nighttime images look like day and the daytime pictures look like night. The idea was that it would make it look a little bit more eerie and a little more desolate. And luckily, because there were no clouds and I had a full moon for the 4 days I was there, it worked out. I did try and tell an environmental story, but to also add a little bit of humor so that people are interested to continue watching it. So it perhaps bridges several categories. When I'm in the field, I feel like an anthropologist. You're going out and you're gathering all this data from your audio recorder, video, from the stills, from the notes that you're taking, and then you're collecting it all, putting it on your computer, and then later when you get home, trying to coalesce this into a compelling narrative. So you've got all the information, now we've just got to put it together. I do preconceive in my head for a project like this how I think I want it to look, so I'm photographing towards that final product as opposed to just randomly shooting. And I do think it's very important when shooting multimedia to have an idea or a concept before you go so you can shoot to it. The whole opportunity from this medium, in my opinion, is the ability for visual journalists to go into the field on their own and record and create a production of a singular vision, their own vision, to research, write, report, photograph, video, and later edit a piece all on their own, rather than having to rely on somebody else. I don't think it's necessary that every piece that visual journalists produce is bigger and bigger, but rather smaller and more personal. That's the beauty of this medium. I do think it's important for photographers to continue to pursue projects on their own, even if their employer turns down the proposal. I mean, this is how we get exposure. This is how we create things that are our own vision. You have to go out there and create something. I feel the need to create, and the only way to do it is to go out there sometimes on your own, time and dime. It's interesting. I had such a hard time getting this published when I got back that I didn't necessarily get very much exposure, but since World Press, it's actually gotten exposure, and the Vimeo people put it as one of their staff picks, and so suddenly I was getting emails from strangers saying, hey, I want to know exactly where you shot this so that I can go and do it. So, I mean, in some ways, it got the exposure that I was hoping to get, but it required World Press to do it rather than the actual media outlets to publish it.